Hello and welcome to the Captain's Table, ladies and gentlemen. My name is Paul Berserker01 Batman Shelley, your humble host and space bartender here at the AstroPub, and your facilitator here on the Captain's Table. This is a podcast where I bring people from all over the Star Citizen universe to talk about Star Citizen. It used to be a joke. Now it's not, because CIG keeps us well-informed and often overburdened with information. But before we get started, I want to introduce our two guests today. I'm going to start with the man, the myth, the legend, the Black Jurassic himself, Mr. Fastcart. Who are you? What do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Thank you, Paul. I just want to say welcome to another episode of Two Brothers, One AstroPub, and I'm your guest, Fastcart FC. Glad to be here. Happy to be here. I'm part of Star Citizen.
At least it's not on February, so you can't raise me for
yeah. I was checking my calendar. you brought me back early.
Yeah, just once.
Just once.
What do you do in Star Citizen?
Oh, okay, yeah. So I'm part of Star Citizen, and we do weekly podcast, well, 3 times a week basically. But I do Soul Talk on Thursday, and we have our main show on Sunday, which is Soul Citizen. And tomorrow we have an hour Invictus discussion also. But we'll be doing a giveaway on Soul Citizen. We're giving away a Fury, a Storm, and a what's the other one? We're giving away 3 subs.
The links?
But yeah, the links. Thank you. The links. Yeah. And that'll be tomorrow, so tune in for that on Soul Citizen. Awesome.
And next is someone I've known for a little bit now, who's actually, if you watch my Astro Historian stuff and you watch the complete history of Star Citizen lore, this gentleman here is actually the person who scores those episodes. So if you've been enjoying them, it's all thanks, at least in part, to Fist here. So Fist, who are you, what do you do in Star Citizen, and where can they find you?
Well, I am Fist to Face, and what I do with, basically I'm part of a group called New Soul, which basically it's ran by me and my dad, Pops in Space. Pops in Space, say hello in chat. Hello. Basically what we do is we make music for Star Citizen. Right now we're branching into doing some machinimas, stuff like that. We just put out a trailer for these young ladies. They call themselves The Crew. And their first endeavor, adventure, as you want to call it, is going to be going into Pyro. We also have done music for Atmo Esports. We've done music for Soul Citizens. If you ever watch this show, you listen to the intro. We've done we did a lot of remixes. We first started out doing that, and we just kind of branched into, like you said, with Paul, working with you, and it's been a pleasure. It's been a joy, and we'll continue to doing more. Yes, we do, Astro. We don't have like free music at the moment. We are looking to do an album after we finish this Pyro project. And Paul, I haven't forgot about the the Lore Chronicles. Yes. About that album. Yes, so definitely I just got a lot on the plate right now. So yeah.
And I have to make a request to New Soul to do a song for the next Star Citizen commercial, because I'm pretty sure a lot of people got a copyright strike for playing
for that one.
That's like a Lynx commercial, so please.
Okay. I mean, hey, listen, if CIG ever wants it, like I said, we're here. Just all you gotta do is let me know what you want. That's it.
There we go. All right. So today we're going to talk about a topic that has been around the discussion a lot recently. One of the things I'll kind of preface this with, there is a lot of new folks in Star Citizen, and a lot of folks who have been taking the plunge into Star Citizen as their main game. Whether you believe it's a game or not, if you're watching this, or even any of us here on the panel, is entirely up to you. But there are people who are playing it as if it's their main MMO, like they would be playing a WoW or a Knights of the Old Republic or any other MMO you can think of. There are people who are kind of dedicating themselves to Star Citizen, not just content creators, but players. In fact, entire organizations that have been doing it. So there's been some issues, as we all have known that since 3.18, the game has been very, very difficult to play. And there's been a lot of outcry from folks who find that whenever CIG ran events, like, say, Xenothreat or Jumptown or these free flights, that they kind of make the game more unstable and difficult to play. And there's been a cry for people, or a lot of requests from people, I should say, for the game to move away from its current model and have more of a stable server, a server that's separated out from sort of these events. So the first thing I'm going to talk about is the idea of having a completely separate build for a free flight compared to the live servers. And I'll start with you, Fist, because you were the last one to introduce yourself. What are your thoughts on that? The idea of having kind of like a PTU, like when you drop down, you click free flight. So if you're just say, a new player, you just have the free flight option, not anything else, to kind of separate the back end.
When you mentioned it to us earlier, I never thought of it that way. I think that actually is a good idea, to be honest, because especially for, like I believe you just mentioned, you talked about content creators, being able to have a stable environment for them to always come to be able to, separate it from, any events that are going on that we know can cause troubles with the servers. But, your content creators can come in, and if they choose to go to those servers, that's fine, but they can always go into a stable environment, to run an event. And I think that is a good idea if CIG does look to implement that, So that would be my take on that.
Fastcart, your thoughts on it?
I'm not sure. It sounds good on paper, but I'm not sure how feasible it would be, because servers cost money, and I'm not sure if they have to spin up more servers, or they could use the ones that they already have existing. But I would guess it would be more effort on their part, because they have to do not only GTU, not even the live test server, but now a free fly server that all has to be maintained and kept up to date. So I think that would take more time. Well, I'm almost say take more development time, but it's more effort on their part, the way they just have two servers and, make it easy on themselves. Because, they do want the analytics that they get from the numbers and the stress test of the live server whenever there is a free fly. Because I'm pretty sure every time there is a free fly, they learn something new. They iterate on the server connections and make everything better. So I'm not sure if they make it into 3 servers, they'll get the same results.
Okay. Fastcard, I'll ask you about this. Go ahead.
I will say one more thing. I wish that they wouldn't call the live server live. I wish they call it. I know the full version, the full name of it is called the live test server, but calling it just live gives it a connotation that people may be confused about, especially new players. But that's my opinion.
I agree with that. Yeah. How about entirely siloing off, like, say, Xenothreat? So you have like an event server where they're running Xenothreat, but everybody who doesn't care about Xenothreat can go to their own build of the game.
Again, it might be more stable for the players, but I think CIG wants to stress test the server, and Xenothreat and all the other events give them data that they wouldn't otherwise get if they had 3 servers as opposed to 2. So I think they want the data that they get. So I'm not, like I said, I'm not against the idea as a player standpoint, but I think it wouldn't help the project overall, in my opinion.
Fist, your thoughts on, say, even siloing off entire events?
I think I'm going to give a good and a bad, because I do agree with what Fastcard did say, because we are always have to think that we are in a testing environment, irregardless whether or not, we silo off, one server for one thing. It's still a testing environment. But with that being said, I do think that it is a good idea. But then again, like you said, if they're trying to get to a goal of having all of these events running at one time in the game, like, say, for example, like they talked about quantum, how is that going to work? because you have to really think about that generating missions within itself within the game. So that's going to be a big issue. And how are they going to be able to test that? And I have to credit Griff for saying this. Like he says, as these things come online, the game is going to become, unfortunately, more unstable. So I look at it from a growing pain. Of a situation that we're in, and then of course we're a part of developing and pushing that that baby out, if you can say it that way.
Yeah.
So
And I just want to add, not just having all this stuff at one time, having all of us, the player, the quanta, and the events going all at one time and be stable too. And so that's an important point, because I mean, like they I think they had the max of 125 or 120 for player cap. Eventually, they want to put as many people in one server as possible. So there will be growing pains as we go forward. And like I said before, for us, it makes sense for them to split it up because it'll be more stable. But for them, CIG, they need the numbers to stress test, because I know they have ways to simulate the stress test, but it's not the same thing as having actual players pound the server.
Okay.
Right.
Fist, I'll start you out with this next one, because this is another thing that's come up, and kind of a similar concept is, many games today have, especially if say Steam and stuff like that, will have beta builds. They'll have the live build and they have the beta builds. And what they'll do is they'll put all the new stuff in the beta builds, and the beta builds will be just constantly up. And they may shut it down every so often, but it's usually just on for months and months and months, so they can get a lot of data and testing, and they can add new things slowly over time. And then once they reach a point where like, hey, this is good, we're good to go, then they push that out into live, and then the live game, or the stable version of the game. Often think of it as kind of a stable and experimental branch of the game. And then beta. Kind of like a beta or experimental branch. So the question, becomes, a lot of people are saying, well, this is something CIG is probably going to have to do in the long term when we get closer to beta, to start having this sort of mindset. Maybe CIG should start pivoting away from that to have something that's like a stable branch, a branch of the game which is stable and ready and easy for people to get on, but just doesn't update. It doesn't update for maybe a year or however long CIG cares about it. And then all of the PTU branches are the ones that are the new ones. Server meshing's in this PTU branch, and then you can stay on that PTU branch for months and months and months and months. And then when they get the new PTU branch out, they just replace the PTU branch with a new one. And then eventually, when they get around to it and say, oh, we'll just update the stable branch because we think it's pretty stable right now. So, a lot of people say, we're seeing a lot of newer folks coming in who are like, hey, I want to buy the game. We talked about with people avoiding 318 because of how unstable it was and not wanting to play the game. So the question is, do you think that's a good idea or not, Fist, to sort of pivot away from this PTU live and more of a stable and experimental system?
Okay, so let me make sure, because like you're saying, like, okay, so get away from PTU live, and do an experimental, and then like once everything is good and experimental, push it to live.
Basically,
that's
so
basically
instead of having like a PTU and then go to a live testing environment, have like a PTU that runs for just as the live testing environment, and then when the new PTU comes out, you just move over to the new PTU. And then once they feel like hey, this patch is good, we're stable, then they push it to a stable patch. So you just have one branch that just never updates, or updates maybe once every couple of months, or maybe once a year, so that those people who want to play that stable experience, they just do that instead of having to go into the experimental.
That's not a bad idea, because Icarus does that.
Yeah.
Icarus does that, where they have an experimental branch of the game. It comes out about, I think, midweek every week when they push a update. And then once they know that update is stable enough, they'll push it on Friday. The game will update. And they do encourage all of their players to definitely jump into that experimental branch to make sure everything is good and, fine and okay. And I do think that is a good idea. from that standpoint of allowing something once it is good, okay, now we can put it to this environment where, all right, folks can kind of get that in their mind that at least I know I have, like you said again, a stable environment to go to, and I can still go to this environment over here to do my part as in testing, the game.
Okay. So you're not against the idea?
I'm not against it.
Okay. Fast cart?
I think it'll hurt CIG in the long run because if they have a stable version, I think not everyone, but that'll be the primary server. But they release ships like almost every other patch, and whenever they release a new ship, that money that they're making from having a new ship that's flyable, or from having a new ship that's flyable, and if they have to separate that from the what do you call it, the stable branch, I think that'll hurt their bottom line in the long run. I don't think CIG will want that. Whereas, yeah, go ahead.
Well, let me counter that to you, though, Fast Cart, because, okay, you're saying that if folks will only gravitate towards a stable environment, which I'm not saying, which true, and then they won't go and test, and CIG won't get their numbers. But you can also, I don't know how well this works. This could be a slippery slope, but incentives to go and test. And I'm not talking about, money value, but, something like, hey, like, if you go in and test and we see that, you are a good tester and you're coming in, we give you paint job or whatever it is, something of that that encourages folks to go in there to that environment, so the way that we can get this content out to folks, if that is a good solution.
It depends on the incentive, because I say this multiple times. I don't play the game that much. I play the game at PAX. I play the game during events like Invictus Week and that I can't think of the name. Oh, Xenothreat. Sorry, the Xenothreat. Right. I come in and play the game, and they do want the numbers, and yeah, I don't. The incentive you mentioned. Having a ship that's newly available, the new shiny, that's an incentive.
Mm-hmm.
Right.
And so
the idea would be necessarily that the ships aren't necessarily, like, you'd release the ships on the experimental, and then the ships would only go into the game once the experimental turns into the stable. So you would, people would be able to go like, hey, Pyro's out. It's only in the experimental. It'll be in the experimental for 3 to 6 months, and then we might move it to stable if we think it's good enough. But if it's not, that if they have a 3.18 situation where it's just hot garbage for the entire time, they can roll on to improve for 4.0.1, 4.0.2, and that means the people who are still having their stable experience playing the game aren't as interrupted by the goings on. But people will still want to have their shinies,
Okay, when you put it that way, that does convince me toward that side. I'm just worried about how much effort it would be for CIG compared to what they're doing now. Maybe it'll be easier. Maybe they can streamline it somehow. But yeah, I'm worried about the effort that they have to expand versus what they're currently doing.
Yeah, that's true. I will say that I think that will require more effort on CIG's part to do something like this, because it will require them to run basically the PTU patch all the time, rather than it running it just for a short period, and then
they have to polish it, and that make sure it runs on the Q&A, and then have that evocati. I mean, I think you all want everything to make the testing shorter, but I would this will make the testing that much longer instead.
It depends. I mean,
before the game come out. I mean, yeah.
It really depends. I mean, because like I said again, I mean, obviously, I can't really compare Icarus to Star Citizen, other than them both being space games. But to see if that experimental branch philosophy will work within a game like this, because it has so much in it, it's possible though. I
Mhm.
don't know
I mean,
how
yeah, I
it'll
agree it's
go.
possible, but
Yeah,
like, so, I mean, maybe they could try it and see how it works for a couple of branches, and if it doesn't work out, go back to the way it used to. But if it doesn't work out, keep it like it is. But I
right.
mean, that how much time do you give an experiment like that, though?
You know what? That's a good question. I mean, that's a good question, like every other question in life. You
Right.
know,
Do you let me ask you this then, Fast Cart, and then I'll ask you if it's the same question. Do you think something this would encourage more people to come in and play the game? Do you think it would just status quo? Do you think it would just get people who are looking just to play the game to be happy and then it wouldn't really do anything? Do you think this would have any benefits to the game right now to have something like a stable version versus a live version?
Ooh,
You know,
okay.
If you have a stable version, or I'm sorry, you go to fist or me?
UFAS, Fast Cart,
Okay.
sorry.
Thank you.
Yes. Yeah.
So yeah, if you have a stable version and just keep the free fly on the stable version, I think that'd be a huge benefit,
Okay.
in my opinion.
So different.
Yeah.
So having like, you know, even if that is back, like say, like in this scenario, you would have something like, we wouldn't even have a 318. The PES wouldn't be out. It would still be in live. Would be 317.2, and you would still like the experimental would be what we're going right now with 318 dot or 319 dot.
But again, like people like the new shinies, and for free fly have new shinies typically. So I'm not sure how that would balance out. You know,
Well, like you
the
said,
new
though,
ship concept shift. I mean, yeah. Go ahead.
well, if a new ship is coming out and you push it to experimental, right? And once that experimental branch, and I'm going based upon, like I said again, I'm going based upon Icarus. If that experimental branch is stable, right? Then you give that green light and then push it to live.
Well, I'm going by
is.
what Paul said, because he said it'll be once a year, whatever it updates.
Whatever it would be, but unlikely for instance, like say 318 in this situation would have unlikely been pushed to the stable servers because of how bad it was, and even maybe 319 probably wouldn't have been because of how many issues it had.
But at the same time, too, with 318, that's a difficult subject because 318 PTU was stable, or
partially, yeah,
right.
Yeah.
As soon as it went to live, that brought in a different variable because you have so many more people joining in and funneling in.
And that's the argument. That's the argument against doing it that way, because the mistake that the problem that they had was people like old time backers having too many crap in their hand. It would make the database unstable. If they only update like every 6 months or every year, they wouldn't be. They may not be able to figure that out until it hit live.
I think a lot of it too, though, because correct me if I'm wrong, then you're looking at, like you said, talk about the database, and this is where I understand, CIG and the community, they want to keep their stuff and accumulate it over their, time of going from zero to hero in the game, that they don't like wipes. But unfortunately, and we talk about this a lot, that we're thinking as gamers rather than being testers.
Right, yeah.
And that's the problem. And I advocate that a lot of times, take a step back and think about it from a testing standpoint of view.
And that's been my argument the whole time. That I've been speaking. I've been saying as a gamer, yes, it sounds good, but as a tester, there's issues.
Right, and see, but this is the solution that I believe with Paul you're kind of tapping into, is that okay for those gamers, content creators, so on and so forth, having a stable environment for them to go to where they know they can, hey, I can jump in every week on Wednesday or whatever it is that I'm doing our events, that I have an environment that I can go to, at least a good stable environment we can go to, we can set up, we can get in, we can do our content for that evening, whatever. And I think, like I said again, that is a good idea from that standpoint of view. But from a tester's standpoint of view for CIG, as far as when they want to get numbers, I get what you're saying, Fast Card, because I'm not disagreeing, but on on the testing side of view, I am agreeing. you know, which
to throw even more of the things into this, the other problem that comes up to mind, because this is an idea that I've heard like pitched out there by content creators and the community as a whole, comes down to, like we already talked about, how 318 in PT was stable, but it wasn't in live. The other problem is, how do you ensure that the stable branch doesn't end up becoming just hot garbage when you try to release it? Because now everyone wants to, all the people will be like, oh, stable branch is being updated, I don't want to have to play the broken patch, so I'll play it when it's more stable. And because they didn't get enough testing, now suddenly, what would to say that 319 or 320 would have been released anyways to stable, and it would still have been in the same situation we're in now. Because how do you determine stable?
Go ahead, I'm sorry.
And that goes back to what I was saying. How much time do you give it the experiment before you decide whether it was a successful experiment or a failed experiment? I don't know.
Yeah. But let's think about this another way as well, because we'll think about it in terms of. I had it in my brain and then lost it. In terms of playability, right? There's a lot of frustrated people who want to play the game, but they just aren't able to play it because of 30Ks or because of other bugs and other issues. And a lot of people are saying, like, this is going to turn off players and people will just abandon the game. Do you think CIG is risking by not changing, by keeping this kind of going and saying, well, the live environment is a test environment? Do you think they're risking long-term damage to their reputation, especially since CIG does put out commercials every new patch saying playable now at the end, and people have already started to kind of like rip on that idea of their own marketing is trying to push this game as a completed game, but then when they get called out on it, they go, oh no, it's testing. It makes them look kind of shifty on that side. Do you think that CIG may need to change their own tune and
marketing,
how they're marketing the game, because that seems to be a sour spot with many, not just content creators, but many players as well. What do you think there, Fist?
I'm going to say, yeah, I really do think CIG does need to stop. What I mean, don't get me wrong. I'm not saying it from a point of view that the commercial is not bad from a production standpoint or anything like that, because obviously it's phenomenal. And when something like that is phenomenal, it catches folks' eyes. Mm-hmm. And now a person who, as we talk about, like I said again, a gamer who sees something like that and they see the shiny, the bells and the whistles, oh my goodness, they see playable now and big red, yellow letters. And we all know from a marketing standpoint of view, if anybody's, taking it, colors attract your eyes. And they when you do that, you know that. So when you have something, that's bright red, bright colors, boom, what are your eyes going to focus to? And they're not going to read fine print. And because the video's going so fast at, all of the fast-paced action, you're not going to be thinking, okay, well, let me sit here and click at the last second to find out what fine print is saying.
You don't do that? You don't click at the last second? Is that what you're telling me?
I will tell you.
You don't pause the video at the exact moment when that fine print come on at the bottom, man? Oh, you gotta get on that.
I appreciate you for pointing out my weaknesses, but I appreciate that. But no, and like I said, I'm not gonna be a hypocritical about it, like as if I'm not guilty of it. Yeah, of course.
Yeah.
But I have just learned to understand where the game is.
Yeah, but new players won't have that understanding.
And that's that's where I've always said that when I've seen them first start doing that with the commercials, I'm like, wait a minute, whoa, hold on, because a person that's fresh off of playing any other game, especially a Call of Duty player, oh my goodness. I mean, Apex or something like that, and they see that, oh my goodness, see all of that action going in, playable now. Okay, yeah, let's go in there. A group of friends, and next thing you know, the environment is not stable. I got to take a piece from what another game that I back, Ashes of Creation, what Steven Sharif said. one of the things is, unfortunately, is that when you have open development like this, is that as you're going through growing pains, folks will see a stage of the game that is at its kind of like its infancy, and it'll be off-putting. So I'm going to liken it to that and say, if you bring in a person and they're attracting, they're coming from this game that's already polished or, pretty much done, and you're advertising it as it is done, and now they jump into it and it puts a bad taste in their mouth, that's difficult to reel that person back in.
And also, you have the content creators who may be a new player, may have a bad experience, and there may be a very popular content creator with many subscribers and followers, and everyone who follows that content creator will say, "Oh, this is a bad game. I'm going to skip it." So I can see your point there. But as far as the question about damage reputation, I'm of the opinion it's a darn if you do, darn if you don't, because I don't think CIG can win could win either way. Because yes, they could build on some players, the new players who like the stable environment, but they may lose players who want something to be updated more often. And vice versa. People who decide to go not play the stable environment, go to the experimental server and have bad experiences, and especially like I said, the content creator and streaming that stuff, that'll hurt CIG too. So like I said, darn if you do, darn if you don't, in my opinion.
You're right. But to jump in again, to counter that, because going back to what you talked about, Paul, with the experimental part, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
If they're pushing out videos like this, and obviously the playable now, and underneath it says alpha, playable alpha, right? And it's advertised, unfortunately, to a gamer that, man, this is stable. This is something that's ready. Looks like it's ready to go. Then the experimental thing makes sense. Having a stable environment, a good 90% of the time for, trying to funnel those folks in for those commercials, until you can push a stable patch, from the experimental branch.
Okay. All right. This I don't. We're not going to solve the problems of this over here, but I think it was. What
the whole point of this conversation is, Paul? Right. What's the point?
Well, I think the point is to bring light to it, because I think there's a lot of people who are very frustrated with the game right now. A lot of people who are long-term backers and short-term backers who feel like they can't play the game they paid for, and so the question becomes: is there a way that you can have your cake and eat it too? Is there a way that CIG could improve their own reputation with their own game? Obviously, they're going to have to put in effort no matter what they do, whether making the game better or not, in the short term. Because, we don't know, to be pure honest, none of us here know when CIG is going to release server meshing. None of us know if CIG is going to improve the 30K situation. We don't know if or when they will do those sorts of things. It could be 319.1 could fix everything. 320 could be the best patch we've ever seen in the history of the game. We don't know. Or it could do nothing. it could make things worse.
Hold on. Before you get to that, let me consult my magic 8-ball. Hold on. Let me see. Outlook cloudy. Oh, darn it. Yeah, we don't know. Sorry.
Yeah. We got to read the tea leaves. We got to see how the birds fly when you release them. We got to
shake up the bones.
Shake them bones.
Yeah, shake the bones and throw them on the ground and read the entrails. It's just the nature of a game in development. There's just a lot of things that are going on that CIG has yet to implement. It's going to cause some problems. But I think it's a good discussion at the very least, because I think CIG always asks for feedback, and this is a great way of giving those feedback. So
we got to think about it, Paul. This is a game that we've never seen.
Yeah.
So this is I'm trying to think of the word, the saying, that we're in uncharted territory.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Oh yeah, unprecedented. I thought you were going to say that, unprecedented, but that too also.
There's as much as people will say and make fun of it and that kind of stuff. This game is no one's ever tried something like this. And there's a reason why
Right.
no one's tried something like this, because it's insane.
Exactly.
Yeah, I think we're all going in a good and better direction, because I'm not hearing scam citizen as much anymore as I used to. So that's an improvement at least.
Well, I'll ask you this, Pascal, because I know you also tend to keep up to date on a lot of those funding trackers. How is Star Citizen doing currently with Invictus this year?
I'm glad you asked that, Paul, because I looked it up just before the show. Let me see if I can find the right tab. But they, as far as new players, on the day after Invictus started with the free flag, they made 10,000 new accounts. And new players and new accounts in the game, and the average before that was like 800 to 1,200 per day. And the day after the 10,000, they went down to 9,000, then 7,000. So it's still above the normal average for per day. I have to calculate that and see how many that is for the time in Invictus. But that's like 5, 15. 25, yeah. So it's like quite a few players, new accounts made doing Invictus. And as far as the money thing goes, well, if you look at the crowdfunding tracker the CID puts out, I think they made the most money on the first day with almost $2 million, 1.9 million. And the last couple of days had been slow. Let me refresh just to make sure they haven't been updated. No, but still says 26. But they made 1.356 million on the 26th and 1.545 million the day before that. So yeah, they're making bank. I think it's less than what it was last year though, because you look on the not Oracle, CCU game has a dashboard now for the funding. So I think it's less. They're not making as much money as they did last year.
Yeah,
it seems. I have to make sure.
I didn't know, because I know CCU games sometimes backdated a little bit. Last I checked CCU game, it said they made about they're at 13 million. 13 million. Last year they made 21 million. But at 13 million, and we still have yet to go through all of the Kraken releases and the rest of the kind of sales for the various stuff. We're probably going to see larger than 2021, which was 13 million. We're already at or over that. So
yeah, we're yeah.
I was just going to say, just in general, like, in funding is a good way of looking at, like, are people coming in? Are people older backers spending money? Or new backers coming in? So it seems like we're still getting a lot of newer folks coming in, but it's hard to tell exactly how. But
also, you got to take into account the ship, because we had 2 sub $100 ships. That's supposed to like having one less expensive ship and one more expensive ship. So I think they're probably selling more ships, but not making quite as much money.
Chat's telling me there was more new increases this year than there were last year. Though go ahead.
Yeah. One thing I will say, I'm disappointed with the CCU game when it comes to CCUs this year for Invictus, because they did like one every 2 days, whereas in the past they had more CCU specials, the war bonds and stuff like that. So I can see that making an impact on the funding.
Yeah. When I'm looking at the changes, and apparently according to the CCU game, there has only been about 74,000 citizens this month, versus last year they had 175,000. So that seems about a lot less in terms of new players. But we also still have
more than normal.
Yeah, still more than. I mean, there was only 67,000 in 2021, and before that it was slightly more. So it's kind of going up and down, but. To end it off on less of a gloom and doom thing, let's think about overall. I'll ask you the broad question. I'll start with you, Fist, on this one. Do you think the game's heading in the right direction? Do you think CIG is heading in the right direction, or do you think they're kind of spinning their tires or going backwards when it comes to development right now?
From my opinion, I think they're heading in the right direction. I mean. That's from my opinion. I mean, obviously, they're making progress.
Yeah.
So progress is heading in the right direction, at least. I mean, they made a big bump.
Mhm.
318 was a big bump, and hopefully they learn from it, because a lot of times, like I always say, from 318, I'd rather have 318 happen now than have 318 happen later.
Okay.
Because obviously I'm a big MMO fan, from playing DC Universe, all the way up to now playing Star Citizen. So I've seen, launches be horrible.
Mhm.
In terms of technical things and stuff like that. So again, 318, I look at it as a growing pain. So when I saw it happen, I wasn't mad at it, and I get it. But that's, again, me thinking it from a tester standpoint of view.
Mhm.
So if I'm looking at where they're headed, if I'm looking at it from a tester standpoint of view, yes, I think that it is going, in the right direction. But if I was thinking it from a gamer standpoint of view, then I would be like, pounding my desk, and everything.
Where's my game?
Right, exactly.
Fastcard, your thoughts, your personal thoughts on, is CIG heading in the right direction? Are they just spinning their tires? Are they going backwards?
I'm going to go in a different direction. I'm going to refer to yesterday's Star Citizen Live, because some people, when they follow the open development of Star Citizen, they like to see the lore like you do, or like they prefer the Buckmaster report like they previously did. My thing is ship shape, and yesterday was like 1 hour long ship shape, and I like the communications, lines of communications open with regard to shipping the backlog and where ship currently stand. So I think they're heading in the right direction in my opinion. So yeah, I almost studied yesterday's Starting Live in anticipation that we would cover that, but I guess we didn't.
Yeah.
Yeah, one thing I will say is that I wish that CIG would take more ships out of the backlog and finish them, as opposed to putting new ships in the backlog, because we got the Storm coming added yesterday, but they took out the link. So they finished one, then added a new one. So one for one, I guess I can't complain too bad.
All right, we'll talk a little bit about the backlog in the question and answer session, but for now, we'll leave that this. Thank you so much for Fist and for Fastcard for coming on. Make sure you're checking out New Soul and Soul Citizens and their projects. And of course, catch us live at twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive, on Saturdays at 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. To come ask your own questions, to come join us live and join the discussion and chat and such. This is where the recording is going to end, but we're not stopping. We're gonna take a few minutes break to go into to get something to drink and such like that. But we'll roll right into question and answers from the chat. So if you wanted to come check that out, the link for the full VOD will be above Fastcard's head, so you can check that out at your own time. Click the link and you'll be able to watch the whole thing. There'll even be like a little timestamp for when we move on to the next portion. So with that being said, thank you for joining us. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black. If I can hit the right buttons.
I'm trying not to say anything. I'm trying to be good.
All right. Oop,
Paul, I just got to say, I love your reaction to Two Brothers, One Astropub.
Oh, Paul.
All right. Well, a few minutes. I'm going to use the restroom real quickly just to make sure I don't have to use it in the future.
Me too.
And
Okay.
And then when we come back, we'll take questions. So if you want questions, chat. It's going to be only on Twitch because I need to funnel the chaos that is the questions into one place. So if I put it on YouTube as well, it's harder to kind of keep track of all of them. I'm working on a way to do both at the same time, but I will answer this one question from MPCDN, who asks, do you think the Polaris will be released in Q1 2024? I'm going to answer it by saying no. I think the earliest...
I'm going to agree.
I think the earliest...
I'm going to say no.
The earliest we would see it is Q2 2024 for Invictus, but that's stretching it. I think it's the earliest we'd see it for Invictus next year. But all right, I'll be right back. I'm going to our chat.
I'll be back.
All right.
Hold the fort,
Fist is here. He's in charge.
I'm going to go to the bathroom too. Stop it.
Okay, all right. we're going to the men's room.
All right. All right. Unmuting that. Check the studio mode real quick. All right, they're both gone for right now. All right, when they come back, I'll know. How you doing, chat? Fast Card's back. Just gotta wait for her fist. Just getting started? No, we're in the middle. Welcome back, Fast Card. We're just waiting for Fist, who I think is currently out. So I hope he's still good because his screen's black. So I hope he just turned off his camera.
Yeah, I had a question, but I'll wait for the question and answer to bring it up.
Well, we'll start with, like, when he comes back, we'll talk about the ISC, because I haven't seen it, so I'm interested to your take.
The SCL or ISC?
The SCL.
Okay. Oh, it was a good one. I recommend it.
I'm definitely going to watch it myself, but I've been hearing a lot of people talk about it, and you kind of take it.
Mm-hmm.
All right, yeah, I'm back.
Welcome back. And if anyone wants to see the behind the scenes to two brothers and one astropub, check my OnlyFans.
Sorry, I encourage him too much, Fist.
Yeah. You know what? I'm trying to think of something, but it's okay.
Nope.
It's all right. I'm really, yeah.
All right, let's get to get back to the question and answers. Welcome back, y'all, to the question and answer session with Fist and Fastcart. Again, always make sure you check out New Soul and Soul Citizens for fantastic content. New Soul does a lot of the work for the complete history of Star Citizen lore. So hopefully y'all enjoy that as well.
I forgot to mention our YouTube. Apologies.
New Soul. Yeah,
New
there is
Soul.
New Soul. New Soul is on YouTube. And there is one video you have on there, which is the Soul Citizens intro. I've pulled that up before, so it's a good listen.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I forgot to say twitch.tv/Soul Citizen, but yeah, whatever. for the giveaway tomorrow.
Now there's a giveaway tomorrow, so there we go. Now if you've stuck around for the question and answers, you know there's a giveaway tomorrow. Captain's Table, yes, Captain's Table is a podcast where we talk about Star Citizen. So because chat's now like, wait, what? What's going on? I'm confused.
That's only because I'm here, Paul. That's only because I'm here.
Bringing in all the new faces. All right, so Fastcar brought it up, so I do want to kind of go over this before we get into the question and answers. Did both of y'all watch the SCL yesterday?
Yes, I did. Yes.
So I'll start with you there, Fastcar, because I know you were itching to do it. What are your takeaways from the SCL?
I'm looking forward to the Mariah Fury. They talk about having different variants and stuff like that. The developers had an idea, and one of the developers brought up a cargo variant for the Mariah Fury. And I'm praying that they call it the Mariah Carey.
The Mariah Carey?
Fitzpatrick knew exactly. Yeah, Fitzpatrick knew exactly where I was going with that. He saw that a mile away. He was shaking his head a long time ago. But no, they brought up other stuff in the. Are you okay, Paul? You okay?
Yeah. That pun just penetrated my skull and hit my consciousness. So.
Okay, but yeah, they brought up other stuff. Like they brought up the BMM. And why it's taking longer than expected, because they lost developers that Paul left, and he was on the BMM team, so that's going to take longer, unfortunately, because people were guessing 18 months, 2 years for the BMM. It's going to be a bit longer than 18 months, unfortunately. So that's unfortunate. And the other thing about the BMM is that everything on the BMM is unique, because it's not like a manufacturer like Drake and Volt Asia. So everything, they don't have like a manufacturer language for the BMM. Everything's going to have to be unique. That's extra work for them. So that's why it takes longer. And so people leaving, they lost knowledge, and they have to train new staff members to put them up to speed for the BMM. So that's going to take a while. Polaris got an update. They say it's going to enter production soon. It hasn't really entered the white box yet, but it's going to be soon too. Before that, they get to start on production for the Polaris. So hopefully, they may get the Polaris before I get my BMM.
Yeah,
that's the hope. Go ahead.
I say almost certainly they will. Unfortunately, almost certainly the Polaris for the BMM. It's actually on the roadmap. If you look at the roadmap, it's the EU vehicle team is now taking hold of it, and their sprint starts in June for it. So it's starting next month at least according to the roadmap. So
So as far as the other stuff, they bought the Polaris, Spirit, SRV, the whole C. No, they said a redacted ship so they have another unnamed ship in the work. The storm is storming through. That's an exact quote.
Was that John Crew? Was that John Crew?
I believe it was.
Oh,
I believe it was.
John Crew.
How did you guess? But yeah, so I mean, a lot of the work that you start in the ISC from the Thursday. Because they actually put work into the storm, so it's quite far along so far. They didn't give it a time estimate, thankfully. Other tips that are in the works are the Suntuck Eye, the Retaliator. They said the G12 in the next year, so maybe Invictus next year or something like that. They also mentioned the Apollo and the Raven. Pre-production work, so all production work, one or the other. They talk about tractor beams, and we work on the tractor beam because they're trying to convert, instead of being size 1, size 2, and size 3 as opposed to weapon, it's going to have its own category when it comes to size 1 and size 2 and size 3. Like a size 2 can move vehicles, and a size 1 cannot. As opposed to what they're doing not now. So yeah, it was a very informative SCL in my opinion.
Your thoughts on the SCL?
I thought I'm gonna my 2 points that I would take away from me watching SEL. Number one, when they talked about the Mariah, so you got me almost getting ready to say it.
Yes.
Okay, I got to pause there for a minute. Sorry. Apologies, chat. Yeah, so when they talked about the Mariah variants, right? They were joking, and one of them stood out was when he said, "Yeah, let's make one that just has like spikes and just runs up and melees you." And I was like, "Man, that's me. That's fist to face. Yeah, I like it. But anyway, that fits. But the second one, which is really the important one, when he talked about the production side of things, where bringing on new people, that it doesn't necessarily mean that things will go faster, because now you have to train people to do things their way, which is a certain way. Correct me if I'm wrong, their ship matrix or metrics, are 1-to-1. So, and everything, sorry, ship matrix are 1-to-1. So when you look at it, a lot of the ships that we have, every ship that we have in a game is functional. It's not like you walk up to a ship and you press F to interact with it and you're automatically in that ship. You walk into the ship and you get to see this, see that, components here, things are physicalized. So this is a lot, and I think sometimes we forget that, from a production side.
Yeah, there's I think it's Moore's Law. No, it's not Moore's Law. I always forget the name of it. It's called the Mythical Man Month, which is based on the book. It's a book by an early software developer, like back in the 70s or 80s, who basically said you can't add people to a project in development and speed up the development. Because
that's what Jared talked about yesterday.
Yeah, because when you do so, it takes sometimes up to 9 months to bring someone, 9 months to a year to bring someone on board.
That's enough time to have a baby.
Yes, the old joke. The old joke was.
Go ahead.
The old joke was the Mythical Man Month comes up and says you can't having 3 women can't make having 9 women can't make a baby in a month. Each baby is going to require 9 months. You can't just increase the number of women and suddenly have a baby develop faster. It's the same kind of way. There are certain milestones you have to hit. There's certain things you have to do, and bringing new people on will actually slow development down some because they need to get them on board. But I always like to have my own little addendum to it, which is I call it the Shelley addendum, which is, you can't have 9 women can't make a baby in a month, but 9 women can make 9 babies in 9 months. So once they're up to speed, it'll actually speed up the development overall once they're on board. And they're so it is a process, but it needs time to develop it over time. It doesn't happen immediately, but it's like a ramp up. Once you hit that ramp and you hit that speed, you're hitting that coasting, you'll start to see more things pop up. And we've seen that with like the ship pipeline. We've seen it with the planetary pipeline as well. So once they get that critical mass of people, it's suddenly things start popping out a lot faster. So,
and I tried to make that point one time on Soul Talk on a Thursday show, and I paraphrased it, but I paraphrased it too much, and people looked at me like I was crazy. Like, wait, we talking about pregnant women? What? Huh? It must have been a non sequitur for too many people. I do want to bring up one more point from the SCL. They said, how will they work through the backlog? That was one of the questions that they had. And according to my note, they said they want to put out 1 or 2 capitals per year. They need more people because people left. They're not at the point where they can put out 1 or 2 capitals per year, but they would, and they want to expand the team in Montreal. So they're looking for more people in Montreal. So that came from yesterday's SCL. 1 or 2 capitals per year is their goal.
Someone on chat is also correcting it. It was Fred Brooks. It's Brooks Law. That's what it was. It's Brooks Law. So, but yeah, that's the other thing to point out. Yeah, I forgot about that. Is that they have 2 separate vehicles that are currently being made by Montreal team. The Montreal team is already on the roadmap for making stuff. So,
Yeah, brought up at a point about Montreal, it's like they're building. They said that building a ship is different from making an environment and
Right.
other points. Yeah. So
Well, yeah, I mean, because you got to think about it when you look at it from building a ship, it's a totally different modeling process when you talk about hard surface modeling versus, you know, building out a planet, you know, and thinking about, like obviously we've been dabbling in Unreal. It's a totally different thought process.
because it's also a movement.
Thinking.
It's going to move
Right.
through 3D space, so you have to have lighting bounce off of it. You have to think about how lighting is approaching it, because lighting is completely different in a moving object than a static object.
Animations.
Yeah.
I mean, that whole pipeline is, yeah. I mean, it's a totally different process. So
oh, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say that, and then on top of that, you have to deal with things with like gravity plating, so you have to have like gravity zones inside, like zones inside of zones, and then they have to like not clip in with one another, and then the transfer back and forth of these different zones it's a nightmare to think about in terms of just physics, let alone the like designing.
They brought that up with the whole sea, because you had a grid within a grid within a grid for the whole sea, and that's part of the blockage or problem that they're working through. I think they said that they fixed it though. If I'm not mistaken, so hopefully maybe soon. But the final point that they brought up at the end of the show was how Judd was shook when he first started with the company. They said that Judd beard had too many colors in 2014. So I was just wondering, have anyone ever made a comment about your beard, Paul?
They have.
They shook you
about how my beard used to be black. My hair is like blackish brown hair, and people are like, "You're completely gray now." I look at old pictures of me and I'm like, wow, I went gray. I'm looking
at my pictures from 2016 to this time. My beard had more black in it than yeah. It's ridiculous. Time, man, time.
All right, next question. Let's pick up these questions from chat. So the first question is from Target Drone, who asks, show of hands, what ships, vehicles did everyone on the panel splurge on this Invictus? I have not bought anything this Invictus, but I'll start with you, Fist. Did you buy anything for this Invictus?
I personally didn't buy, but my dad did, which really you could say I did buy something. But my dad, I believe, Pops, correct me if I'm wrong in chat, I think he bought the Lynx, and I think that was it, right?
I think so. Yeah, I think so.
Yeah, I think he just bought the Lynx. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's a beautiful vehicle. We took it out for a spin.
It's so sexy.
Yeah, I have to give it to him. And again, now, see, here we go. CIG, when you make ship commercials, I'm for that.
Yeah,
no problem.
Yeah.
No problem. Yeah. Don't stop doing that. But the playable now thing, just get that a rest. Just.
How about you, Fast Cart?
Okay, I haven't bought ships yet. I'm going to buy LTI token, especially for the for giveaways for future giveaways for Star Citizen. But I did buy a new Star Citizen shirt, because I bought one in 2016 and it had developed a hole in it, so I needed to replace it. So they're having a sale on physical merchandise, and the small shirts were $24 for some reason, but the large shirts $21. But the large happened to be just the size that I get, so it worked out for me. So if you're interested in Star Citizen merchandise, now is the time for doing Invictus, because they'll go back up in price soon. I wasn't interested in the Storm until I watched ISC. There's one line one of the developers said that let me get it straight, because I don't want to misquote them. He said the Storm, getting into the Storm will be like stepping into a mech. And I picked up like a prairie dog, a meerkat when he said that. I'm like, huh? Because I wasn't really feeling it until then. I'm like, then he said a mech, and I'm like, because I'm still waiting on my Titan suit. But I, like a few years ago, I melted all my vehicles. Like, okay, vehicles are cheap. I just buy them in game. Like, that way about LTI. But man, I'm tempted.
I enjoy the. Don't get me wrong. I'm a big fan of anime and manga styles, especially mecha and all those sorts of things. I'd love to see more of it come into the Star Citizen's design language. But I'm just, when I look at the Storm, I'm like, it's just the wrong. If it was like not Tumbril, it's just new manufacture something else, I'd be okay with it. If it was Misk, I mean, it sounds weird. If it was a Mirai, if it was the Mirai Storm, I would have been like, yes. This
So
is,
what's wrong with the Tumble Storm?
it's because it was built the same time as the Nova, like literally the same time. And it's like you look
You're
at those two.
Not a fan of the Nova.
Well, I like the Nova, but they're not. They don't look the same, like at all.
Oh, so you're talking about a cohesiveness in design.
Yeah.
From like
From
a
it's like-
period from okay. I
Yeah.
get what you're saying.
Yeah.
That's
from
one of
its-
the topics that they
Okay.
brought up on SEO yesterday. But go ahead.
I can see an argument for it though. Like, you know, it was because the middle of the Second Devarin War, and they're like, oh, we're gonna beat the Devarin fine, and the Devarin just beat their ass just constantly, and they're just like that meme of like, you know, the boxer being like, I'm gonna whoop his ass, and like, goddamn, that guy's got hands, like that meme, like these birds got hands. So I could see in lore basically being Tumbril being like, nothing is working. Let's just find someone and see if they go crazy with it. And just some weeb just pops out, be like, yes, let me build my mecha tank, you know, and somehow it worked. So
One thing I do like about the Storm is that it's energy based instead of ballistic based, because I'm not about trying to go back to refill my ammo when I'm out and about, you know.
Yeah. I agree with you on that part though, Fast Car. And I have to take from what's from the SCL yesterday when they talked about design, because I get it, you know, not everything. I mean, like when you look at what Jared was talking about, like car manufacturers. If I remember correctly,
Yeah.
they talked about car manufacturers, and they had designed another manufacturer had a design. They came out with like Ford is not going to be, you know, tied to one design. You know, they see something that's hot on the market, they're gonna go. You know, so yeah.
I mean,
I
you got
get it.
Apple and Samsung.
yeah, Those are
Samsung
two
came out with the big Note, and then, you know, a few years later, Apple came out
Right.
with a bigger phone, and like, oh yeah, we innovated that. They try to pretend like they did it first, but we all know Samsung came out with the Note first.
Okay, I get it. I understand.
all right. So this is a question for you, Fastcart, from Maxol, who asks, Fastcart, why Fastcart? Why the name Fastcart?
I don't think she was doing that question. That was when I first made my two brothers joke. You say, "Why fast car? Why?"
Oh.
That's what that was.
I think that was okay.
But if you want me to go into the origins of my name, it came up. I didn't have a scooter or cart until I got into college, and when it went into applying for my email address, I put in. I had to pick a unique email address, and Fastcart was it came up because my first cart. People said it was fast, and I had a cart, so Fastcart.
Fastcart.
So
Yeah.
simple, and I've been like that since '91. So that's a long time. Over half my life I've been Fastcart.
It works. It's kind of like me. When I first started, I was Berserker 01, just because it was the name I picked was as a handle. And I just never left it. It's been my handle forever. It's why I'm still Berserker 01 on most things, and then just recently moved over to the AstroPub because of the branding. So,
Gotcha. Okay.
And the
All right.
Astro Historian and the other
and
Astro.
AstroPub, AstroPub Live, Astro Historian. Yeah. All right. Next question comes from Max, who asks, "Do you think the new salvage mission experience gives less taste of the salvage with the loot valuable boxes?" I think Max is talking about it's like less salvage and more of a looting situation. It's hard to tell because Max doesn't speak English.
I'm still following. Say it one more time.
Do you think the new salvage mission experience gives the less taste of the salvage with the loot valuable boxes? So I think what he's trying to say is it less salvage and more looting boxes?
Oh, I haven't done the
Well,
mission, so I can't really comment.
I can't comment on that one either. I haven't done that mission, but give me some if you can real quick. Let me give me some background as far as the mission.
It's hard to people's loot boxes and don't scraping holes is what I mean. Oh, so the new missions, a lot of people are just taking the missions instead of scraping the holes. They're looting the ships for the loot on there because there's rare loot on the ships.
I
mean, again, that's testing. So that gives CIG information about how to create new missions going forward. Because people will find these loopholes and do stuff like this. So yeah, I think that's good info for CIG in the long run.
Yeah, I still think it's an okay thing because it still allows for people to, because salvaging cargo is as much a part of salvage as anything else, especially since these cargo, you could also probably go in and rip off the guns or the components from it too now. So why not? Why not be able to have a salvage? You paid for a wreckage, you just go in there and just like, I'm going to take this rare loot and go, loot and scoot. That's fine.
Now, see, with that being said, first off, is the loot inside of the ship? You have to get out your ship and go into the ship.
Yeah.
Okay. So you know what? To counter that, as I think they said that they were going to do with those salvaging missions, they'll have an enemy come in.
Yeah.
Right. So now you left your ship or whatever it is. So, especially if you're in a vulture, you are vulnerable. It's goodbye. Because you have to try to now EVA back to get back to your ship while they're tearing up your ship, or could be some type of space creature when animals and creatures and stuff like comes online. So you never know.
There are apparently creatures that live in the void that can live in the void of space. So you gotta love the point where you get into your ship like, I'm gonna get this rare resource. Why do you think that rare resource has been abandoned? Why do you think no one's touched it?
There you go. Exactly.
Yes, chat's right.
Several Star Trek episodes.
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. Next question comes from Gin and Tonic, who's bringing up a good point about. I think there's a long list. I'll try to read through it, but I'll try to summarize it as well. They just replaced the entire back end of the game. Anyone who was paying attention knew it was going to be bad. The problems that have been uncovered and are rapidly being addressed require higher concurrency to uncover. Splitting the player base across servers will dilute the ability to collect necessary data. You actually want them to slow down making things work better by denying them the concurrency. I think we already addressed that in that one as well. We talked about that. It's like it's a trade-off of splitting it up into like a stable and unstable, or event and live servers. We'll split up the numbers, and we won't see as many for that. I think you talked about that, Fist. We talked about like the difference between looking at it from a gaming perspective and looking at it from a testing perspective.
Testing perspective, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So I think we've already touched that one. All right, all server shards linked to the same back end. Don't you want the back end to be able to support the load when server meshing comes? I think it's just going on the same stuff about that. In addition to fracture, okay, yeah. It's just, we've already talked about it there, Jen. I think we addressed it to a degree. Blazrad asks, why do you think people keep blaming free flies for the issues when CIG repeatedly state that free flies are not the issue, they're just making bugs more apparent?
That's the before and after cause and effect that they see. They want to attribute to something that that they can see, and rather than I don't want to say listen to CIG, but wait for CIG to come up with their real explanation as to what's going on. So they want to blame Free Fly because they're taking a guess as to what's making all the problem, as opposed to waiting to see.
Yeah, I mean that's basically it. I think people are looking for a reason for it. They see this is going on. So they put A and B together and say this is the reason why all these things are going wrong, despite that those things still exist. It's just they're exacerbating it because they're pulling
right.
Out, which
just becomes more apparent. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah, I mean, it didn't seem obvious, like when 318 come out, like a lot of people who had a lot of stuff in their hangars were having trouble getting in because they're like, oh, we're having trouble getting in because most of us who have been in for a long time, we tend to hang out together, so we all have similar not expert, similar reactions or similar experiences. That's the word. Similar experiences to trying to log into the game. When if you try to know someone who's new, or you brought a new friend as a referral, they said, "Oh, I got in just fine." But who does referrals anymore, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, I try and I fail. I've been doing this for what, 7 years now. Yeah, and I have my total the total amount of referrals I have is like 20. Like,
no, seriously?
Yeah, I only have like 20 referrals.
Wow.
Well, it's because no one finds the lore of Star Citizen and goes, "This is great. What is this game, Star Citizen?" They find it after the fact. No one watches.
So you must have a ton of people who haven't bought the game or who haven't put $40 in it yet.
Yes,
right?
I have a lot of those. I've got like 30 or 40 people who've signed up, but not actually paid for it. So, but yeah. Let me see the next question. Next question comes from Blazrad, who asks, do you think there will be less complaints of CIG accelerated plans from the Kickstarter to have private servers available?
Private servers? Ooh.
I'm going to jump on this landmine and say no, because I think if they developed private servers first, there would be a lot more complaints about progress. We'd be even slower in terms of Star Citizen's progress than we are now, because that would be an ad hoc.
Yeah, because they would have to update that private server every single patch,
right?
to make things work.
It's kind of like would be like Arc, right? In a sense, like you could run it on your own server, and then if you wanted to, you could push whatever patch that they have to your server, but that's a lot more work for them to do.
And it also splits up the community, so now we have less people testing the game.
Exactly. Because now how does CIG get data from a private server?
Yeah,
they don't. They may not. I mean, like years ago, 2015 and before, people could just run Star Citizen as a standalone thing without connecting to the server, and it got great performance, right, Paul? It was like 60 FPS and higher back then, because it wasn't you didn't have the server tick slowing you down. So, but then CIG did away with that as far as I can remember.
Yeah, they got rid of it. Now I do think, and here's my theory, that the way that they're developing Squadron 42 and Star Citizen, when Squadron 42 releases, whether CIG likes it or not, there will be private servers for Star Citizen. Because in theory, Squadron 42 is just a offline version of Star Citizen. They're using everything they can in Star Citizen as part of Star Citizen to make Squadron 42, including server meshing and PES. They're using that technology just to make it easier to port in assets from Star Citizen to Squadron and vice versa. So it's basically the same game, just two different versions.
I mean, as far as Squadron 42 goes, wouldn't they just need a connection just to update achievement, and that's it?
Yeah, it doesn't actually need, like, the actual server. Last I heard, the way that the server meshing works or the servers work in Squadron 42 is the game will spin up a server on your client, and then your player will be a client on that server. So it's like a local server inside the game, and they use PES for save game states. So like whenever you hit the save game.
So what kind of computer would you need in order to they have recommended specs. Well, they took it down, I guess.
Yeah, I imagine it's going to be a little different because I don't think they'll do Squadron 42 will be released before they have Vulkan. They'll probably have Vulkan integration, which will reduce some of those things. And as you just said, like if you play the game solo, the performance is great. Like, when you're on a server just yourself, it's fantastic.
Of course.
Yeah, so But I think some enterprising person will reverse engineer it because that's very similar to how the GTA and Red Dead games are made.
Right,
They
exactly.
Their single players are
Exactly.
separate from the multiplayer. And so how all of those private servers work is they just take the single player version and then reverse engineer all the stuff for the multiplayer and then kind of build their own stuff. It'll probably be easier for modders to do it with Squadron 42 because Squadron 42 has probably more directly related stuff like server meshing and other things into it. So,
Oh, you remember that engineered modder book that put out?
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
people are still. I think people have forgotten about that.
Yeah. Well-
because people like back in the day, I know it's still available in digital form. But back in the day, you could order a physicalized engineered modder book for the game.
Yeah.
So yeah.
And I don't think we're going to see Star Citizen private servers that are like 100 systems and all of the systems that function.
Right.
It's going to be bare bones, but it should still.
At the start, I think
Yeah.
as time goes on, they'll add to it probably.
Yeah.
I mean, it's possible because I mean, me and my dad, we used to be admins in another gaming community where they had Left 4 Dead servers, and they were modded. So I mean, like I said again, I would like to see where that would head into, what people can do with it, because like somebody said in chat, those servers are really going to be heavily used for, your RP community, and stuff like that. So yeah, I definitely would like to see. Yeah,
I think it's going to happen whether CIG likes it or not, and it's just a matter of how CIG is going to respond to it, which will matter the most.
That's a good question. Yeah,
because they could legally bring out that hammer and start swinging it and start preventing people from doing it. They did that once. I think they did it with the when people figured out how to do the private stuff. I think they sent out cease and desists to be like, nope, stop it.
Oh,
Stop
really?
hosting it. Yeah, I think they stopped the hosting of it. They fixed it on their end, and then they stopped the hosting of it, the ability to do so from what they did. But I hope that CIG will see the wisdom in not stamping that out, but it's hard to see. All right, next question comes from Pilgrim70, who asks, how many of you would have spent money on a concept carrier if they would have put it up for sale? Fast car?
Carrier, like how much are we talking? Like $600, $1,000? No,
Let's say
not a carrier.
let's say Pegasus. They put at least the Pegasus escort carrier.
That's not my
$2,000.
game style.
No,
Yeah, that's not my game style.
Fist.
Me either. I have to agree with Fast Card. I'm more of a industrial type of person first when it comes into the game. So yeah, I would pass on that one.
Like I was interested when it first came out. First announced the privateer, the Kraken privateer. I was like, oh, a market version, a bigger market version of the BMM. I'm interested. Then it said $2,000. I said nope, no thank you. I'll keep my BMM.
I'm the same. I'm not really interested in big carrier gameplay. I know there are people are. And I'm sure CIG could print money if they just wanted to do a concept sale of a big capital ship. But as Fastcart was saying earlier, like you also got to worry. CIG's got to worry about that back end. If that backlog gets too big, you're going to start getting, like why?
I almost perked up when you said back end. Who?
Back Me, Fastcart, my back end. My gigantic thick ass. All right, that's what we're talking about.
Ooh, oh my!
Don't get clutching your pearls suddenly there, Fast Card. After this, none of that.
This had to correct. Why did I sign up for this? I knew better.
All right, we only have 2 more questions. If anyone wants to ask more questions, feel free. I have one more question after this as well. Go ahead.
So, I asked early in the month on a previous captain table, when you think they have a CitizenCon announcement, and you said like you gave a data around Invictus Week. We only have today's date, the 27th. We only have 4 more days in May, and it said that they'll have an announcement in May. You think it's gonna be on Monday or Tuesday or what?
I think it'll be on Wednesday. I think it'll be on the last day of May. I think it'll be because Invictus ends on the 1st, right?
Hmm.
Or the 31st.
I thought it was 31st.
If it ends on the
31st,
30th,
I thought.
yeah, so if it ends on the 31st, then on the 31st they'll make that announcement, and they may even make it on the 1st of June. Who knows? You know, just to put it out there. But I'll tell you this. I got a message from Xylo. He's been asking content creators like, "Hey, are you coming to CitizenCon or not?" And I've never had that question asked me before. So
Xylo, what my request? I didn't hear anything.
yeah, talk to Fastcard, Xylo. He's the ambassador to Star Citizen. Why aren't you talking about it?
I already got my ticket. I already got my ticket and hotel accommodations, man.
I'm curious, what's that about? Because we responded to it. I know he put something up there on Twitter.
Yeah.
And everything.
I don't know.
I'm just curious.
I don't know. Okay. He hasn't told me. He just asked me if he doesn't tell me anything. He knows if he tells me something like that, he risks me. Well, there's two sides. Either Xylo tells me something that he shouldn't tell me, and it's like, Xylo, stop talking. Just stop talking right now, please don't.
So he's like one of those guys where if like you put a drink to him, you know, like
he's good.
Okay, yeah.
He's good at the drinks. He's good at handling that. It's just sometimes he's just like, this is really cool. I want you to see it because I know you won't say anything. It's like, stop it, Xylo. Okay. I don't need to know these things.
Itching, like itching to say something.
So I do recall now there was a tweet way back when about people going to CitizenCon. So that's what you're referring to.
Yes. He's been asking about.
Okay, I forgot about that. Okay, so I'm good. I replied to that tweet. Okay.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, we did too as well. So, you know, yeah.
So, but it's just that's so they're definitely talking about it. They're thinking about it. Okay. They're working on it. So I don't know. I'm still got that. I've got the tinfoil hat. I'll start with. Well, I'll ask this question for you. Start with you on this one, Fist. What do you think they're going to announce at CitizenCon? What do you think CitizenCon is going to be?
Okay. Well, when you talk about an announcement, for me, I look at two things. Now, this is hope. This is not saying obviously that they will, but this is hope. Squadron 42, and obviously, you know, Pyro. You know, about Squadron 42 to kind of go a little bit in detail for me. Possibly it's a stretch, a beta, or a state, maybe an announcement in that sort. I don't know.
Who knows?
But at least something. You know, we already know that they've been debuting Pyro. I think they'll probably have maybe I won't say a concrete quarter date, because again, I know we try to encourage them to not really say dates, you know, because things happen. You know, we know the community when dates don't come up, you know, we start getting our pitchforks out and torches and start antsy. Marching, right? Yeah. You know, so you know, but it's possible. So, you know, that's what I think. To me, what I would like to see, as well as I'm thinking we will see.
Fastcart, what do you think?
I'm guessing that what I would like to see is some of the stars from Squadron 42 here on stage at CitizenCon, like Gary Oldman, Gillian Anderson, Mark Hamill, people like that to appear, because you know it's in LA, so a lot of the stars are in that area. I think that's too big of a stretch. Squadron 42 is no longer on sale. You covered that, right, Paul?
Yeah,
so
I'm talking about
something going on there.
Yeah,
something going on there. So I don't know. I'm not expecting a date or anything for a beta itself, but maybe an announcement for a beta soon, TM.
Yeah,
maybe.
Soon, TM.
I don't know.
Yeah, I'll put on my tinfoil hat. So I'll give you the sober, down to earth, not fun Paul prediction, and the fun tinfoil hat, crazy, high on hopium Paul prediction. My sober, down to earth prediction is it's CitizenCon Pyro, what, 3 or 4 at this point? Like just another CitizenCon about Pyro. It'll have all of this stuff that's going to be brought in 320. Like we'll learn all about the different things in 320, like the whole C and everything else that's planned for the 320 release. They'll show it off. They'll have parts of it there, and they'll probably have some discussions about where server meshing is, and maybe even showing off like a transition from Pyro to Stanton or something like that. They'll have some stuff there just to show off where they currently are. I think that's the bottom basement of what I'm expecting. Something that we've had in same thing we've had the last 3 years, with some more spice in terms of what's actually going to be coming out in the next 3 to 6 months. Go ahead.
Go ahead. Okay, I was going to say another thing about Squadron 42 is that Sandy Roberts on her Twitter account had a picture with Reese Davis coming back for a reshoot for Squadron 42. So, hey, there's more Squadron 42 hype. My thing is, back in 2018 at CitizenCon, they had presentations running simultaneously between 2 rooms sometime. Do you think that they'll go back to that, or it'll be one room per presentation?
I think they'll have 2.
You think so?
Oh, yeah. LA Convention Center is huge. They got plenty of space for it.
Yeah.
So, but my absolute hopium, as you've been pointing out, is that CIG will do everything I just said, but then they will say, we're shooting for 4.0, or 4.0 is going to be out in Eva Cati at the end of this, which is, that's absolute hopium. It's absolute hopium. Well, they'll have an Eva Cati out before 3, because they'll probably release 320 around the end of CitizenCon. So like they'll have at PTU for CitizenCon. They'll be like, and Eva Cati for 4.0 coming out. So again, that's absolute hopium. Don't know it in chat. Just be like, Paul, you're an optimist. I'm not saying it's going to happen. This is my ideal situation. This is where I would be absolutely ecstatic.
He had a reputation to uphold, right?
Yes. And then also a full release date for Squadron, not a
full release date.
Well, not for.
Oh, that's a hopium. That's a hopium. Right.
Not a full release date, but like a quarter release date. Well, they'll say Q4 2024. I don't think they'll actually hit that date, but there are so many things that are pointing me towards that direction that I'm like, don't give me hope, CAG. Stop doing this. Stop it, please. Which is, one, they've never announced a CitizenCon this early, ever. They announced the CitizenCon in LA in December of last year.
Yeah, and I think that was unplanned, because Jared and Sandy will have a conversation. I think that was really unplanned, unscripted. But for 2020 CitizenCon, the one we canceled because of the COVID, they had that on the LA Convention Center website back in December too. So it's around the same time for both of them.
Well, the difference was that Sandy was just coming from a board meeting. They had just confirmed it at the board meeting that they were doing CitizenCon.
Oh, okay.
And so my thought, I'm sure she was just in town, and it was just Jared was having there, but it was also of like a happy coincidence that they're doing this. My question is, as much as I know CitizenCon is an important event and that kind of stuff, I don't really think that the board is getting involved in CitizenCon discussions and announcements unless something else is going on in CitizenCon beyond just a typical CitizenCon stuff. So that's the initial, was like, that's weird. I don't know about this.
I don't know. The board could probably. I mean, I'm not a business person.
Could be.
But it could. I think there's a chance.
The tinfoil.
All right.
The tinfoil's on for this one.
All right.
And then CIG decided that they were going to, like a lot of the monthly reports have been kind of showing off a lot of stuff for like the progress for CIG. And then it was something else that was showed to me recently, which is CIG's Squadron 42 teams all went full-time last October. So up to this point, they'd been part-time. So they'd been doing some work in Star Citizen, some work in Squadron 42. As of October 2022, like the majority of them are now full-time working on Star Citizen or on Squadron 42. They're just complete full-time switch over, which is odd for them to have just done so that quickly.
I'm getting pushed back in chat. People are saying like it was planned back in December because Sandy was in there. But I'm just saying the way the conversation was presented,
Yeah.
Judd was afraid that he would get in trouble at
If
some
he
point.
mentioned it. Yeah.
With the mention it. So that's why that's what I took from it. That's what I'm getting from it. So yeah.
He definitely was excited about the topic, but it was definitely not something he knew if he could talk about it, which also another adds to that kind of conspiracy of like, why are you excited about this? Other than, it's nice to have him back, but I don't know. And then on top of all of this, John Rice Davies just happens to show up to do pickup animations, and now it's like, stop it, CIG, please stop it. Like, this is, and then on top of that, Squadron 42 is pulled from the store,
pulled from the website. Yeah.
And here's the other thing that was someone told me that there was a German law that was passed in 2018, or a court filing that had happened, which prevented you from selling a product on pre-sale without a release date. And a lot of people were pointing to that. I was like, okay. Then somebody I know who's a Star Citizen fan, who at least has more experience with German law, messaged me after I said that and said, that's not how German law works. German law doesn't work like American law, where the court decisions are now considered de facto law. It just prevents that thing from happening, and then it goes back to the legislature to make that decisions in the future. So it doesn't stop it. It doesn't work like American law, where like the Supreme Court says something and it's effectively law. It just stops that case. As far as I know, I could be wrong, and I could be misinterpreting what that person was saying. But then a lot of other people were pointing out, like, that doesn't seem quite right, because what about concept ships? Like, it wouldn't make sense if that was the reason why it got pulled, because concept ships are still a thing, and you'd also have to do that with concept ships. There's no release date for concept ships.
And I've been waiting how long for my BMM?
Yeah. And then on top of that, every time I've talked to CIG developer about this, they've said, we can't talk to you about it. I'm sure if it was like a legal thing, they'd be like, it's a legal thing, we're dealing with it. Like, that's like, but they've been like, I am not talking to you about this time.
Even if it was a legal thing, I don't think they can say it's a legal thing. How many times have they, like the whole Crytek versus CIG thing that they haven't, yeah.
Well, if it was just a German law, if it was like a German law, like we're complying with German law, they could easily just say, we're complying with German law. That could be the reason. That's not a reason to hide. Like, oh yeah, we're just doing what the EU wants us to do. Because they said the same thing about taxes. Remember when they had to start adding taxes to it? They made an announcement.
Or this is a whole marketing thing to get us typed up about Squadron 42, because hey, it's working. I think we're talking about it.
I think they've pulled it. I think they've pulled it because they want to do a big reveal and a price increase.
Price increase. I agree with the price increase.
And they're doing a whole new revamp of the site, so that when they make the announcement, they have a brand new site that's good to go, and it's physically separated from Star Citizen in terms of its I don't know,
Paul. I think that's a bit too far. A brand new site. Have you seen how the site looks? No,
I know. And I know CIG likes to abandon one thing and more on the new and shiny. So I'm not saying. So all of these things, all of these breadcrumbs are making me go, CIG's going to announce Squadron 42. But my internal, logical, jaded backer self goes, no, don't get your hopes up, because CIG has never said anything. And if they haven't said anything, then it's probably not going to be the case. And you're just reading stuff that's not there. So that's why I got to keep that caveat.
I get it.
All right, let's move on to the next question. There's actually a question in chat that was asked a little earlier, and I'll pick that up. And then there's one other question, and we can ask the last question. When do you think CIG will make the step in separating the replication layer from the game server? And do you think, as I hope, that will lessen the server issues by separating character game state from the world state? Fist, what do you think? You know what they're referring to, right? Because right now your character state is connected to whatever server you're in. What they want to do is they want to separate your character state to the replication layer being over everything. So when your character is saved, it's their location. Say like you're in a ship and a 30K happens. When the replication layer is spread across all of the servers, your character is then, when you log back in, it doesn't matter what server you're on, you'll get put back to where you were last registered by that. So effectively removing the status of like your character being connected to the server and then connected to the back end. So you could have things like 30Ks don't matter as much anymore. what server you're on doesn't really matter in terms of what's going on, because it'll be all backed up to the big server. It doesn't matter if that server is having big problems. So do you think, when do you think something like that's going to happen? Because they did mention that they're working on that separation back in December already. So
When do wow. Oof.
Uh-huh.
Okay, so when was this mentioned on the progress tracker? Correct me. I mean, for freshmen, if anybody knows.
It was mentioned in the letter from the chairman in December. That was the next step.
December, dang.
That's when they were talking about. They said the first step is the PES. Once they get PES in, then they have to remove the replication layer from the servers and make it to connect to all of them.
Now, see, I mean, obviously, I don't know from a programmer standpoint point of view how easily or complicated that would be. I see somebody in chat named Undead Fred saying that it wouldn't be too hard, but you would have to make sure that you have to secure it so that the data exists, so that the data can't be spoofed. With that being said, if that's true, then if let's say taking that if it's easy, it depends, on what's in front of that could be, holding that up. So, maybe next year.
Okay. Fast card.
Yeah, I've been listening and waiting. I'm gonna just preface this by saying I'm a ship guy. Asking me about this stuff, this is not my thing. But I'm gonna say my answer is soon, TM.
Soon, TM.
But more than that, if you want a more specific answer, I would say 4.0, whenever that may be.
Yeah, I'm leaning towards 320, but mostly because the way that it was presented was that this is the step before server meshing. They need to get this to work before they can get server meshing.
Before that, see, right? That's what I was trying to say. Like, is it is something that does it have to go before something, or
it's the step,
something that needs to go after?
It basically allows that if you're, say, like going from one server to another, when you crash, it lets you. It basically. It destroys 30Ks. Like 30Ks don't matter. Like you crash, but when you log back in, you're exactly where you crashed before. Like it never happened. Even if it's on a different server, it's still there because it's all connected to a global backend rather than the individual servers you're on. But as someone in chat also pointed out, it also creates a lot of issues because it will also require that the game player, like the player character, will then have to check in with the local server, which will have to check in with the backend server to see if the player itself has access to that item. So like, say I have this water bottle, right? If the game, if I want to go pick up this water bottle, the game has to ask the backend, can this player pick up this water bottle? And then that chain has to come back. And if there's some mess up, you might be able to duplicate a water bottle because your character has it, but then the server also thinks that it's still there, and those sorts of things.
Yeah, we can't have that.
Yeah. So I might be wrong on that one. This is just me based off of my understanding. So
right. Okay. I get you.
Genitonic, I just had to address you. I did say I'm a ship guy, so don't take anything I said
as
an authority on its matter. Okay. Hey, Eric McCutton. Wow, I haven't seen Eric McCutton in ages.
He comes back every so often into my chat. So.
Hey, Eric McCutton. Okay. Old school.
So yeah, do I think it'll improve things though? Because that's the second part of the question. So do you think it'll improve things? And I think no.
Right.
No.
Not for a while.
Right. It'll be there.
Yeah. It'll function. Maybe.
Right? It'll be there.
I'm one of those people is like, I don't think we're going to really see improvement in terms of game playability until post 4.0. It's just like every patch going forward is going to break something else. And once 4.0 releases, it'll be broken. And then they can finally like start, setting that broken bone and let the wound heal and fix those things.
I hope TIG will not put out a 4.0 playable now on YouTube on commercials and stuff and from marketing. I hope they don't do that, but they probably will.
All right. So the last question we have, because we have two questions. The next question is a groaning of a question from Gin and Tonic, who asks, a pun is not mature until it's a fully grown. Like grown.
I agree. I applaud that one. Yeah, I agree.
It's not a question.
That's fine.
All right. And the last question, which is the most important question. How is everyone doing tonight? Fastcard, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing excellent, sir. I'm on a show with two of my favorite people, and having fun, making people groan, making people laugh. I'm in my element.
Fist, how
and
you
I haven't got I haven't gotten Paul
demonetized,
yet, but I'm still working on it. Yeah. I got you demonetized probably, but I haven't got you banned yet.
It'll happen someday. It'll happen someday.
Yeah.
How about you, Fist? How you doing?
I'm sick and tired. I'm just sick and tired of fast car. I'm just playing. I'm just playing. No, I'm doing very well. Very excited, happy to be here, happy to be on the show. First timer here, so hopefully look forward to coming back and definitely share some.
You're always welcome back.
Opinions.
No one has ever been banned from the captain's table. Like I'm thankful enough that I haven't had to do that. But everyone's like, hey, what's up?
Can I make a request? Is it possible to like implement a voting system to ban
to kick him off the island?
Yeah.
Well, I think he's saying that this will be the last time he's on the show with me. That's what he's
No.
to say.
I didn't say I would be this is the last time I'd be on the show with you. I just said you didn't listen to what I said. I said, can Paul implement a voting system to ban a person off the show? And if you think about it, and if your mind goes wild, however you want to take it, though, Fast Guard,
you just try not to take responsibility. That's how that is.
No.
Fist, you know what's going to happen? They'll ban me from the show. That's what they'll do. They'll just vote to ban me.
That's funny. Damn.
Because they think it's funny. Because chat would think it's hilarious.
Yeah, you're right. You are correct.
Oh, so now that we reached the end of the show, I just have to put in requests for CIG. I know CIG gave Paul a redeemer that's unmeltable, ungiftable, and upgradable. Give him a Rock DS during IE this time. That's my request.
You really just hate me. You just want me to have like all of terrible. Like at some point, CIG is just gonna, I'm calling it now, April 1st of some future date. I'm going to log into my account and find out that all I have is a Rock DS, a Redeemer, and what is the latest one that came out, and a Storm, and that'll be the only things I have, and I'll just be like,
Cutlass Steel,
and it's Cutlass Steel. Yeah. To be fair, I'm one of the few defenders of the Cutlass Steel. I'm like, this is garbage. This is hot garbage, but I love it because it's so Drake.
And CIG, if you want to give me a Mariah Carey, I'm all for it.
Fast Card, bad baby.
I'm doing great there, QPan. Thank you for asking. And that's the last question for today. Thank you for coming on. Thank you to Fastcart and Fist for coming on. Make sure, as always, check out Soul Citizens and New
giveaway
Soul.
Tomorrow.
There's a giveaway tomorrow for Soul Citizens, so make sure you go check it out. What time is that tomorrow?
8 p.m. Eastern, midnight UTC, so 5 p.m. Pacific. And before we start off, I just got to say, people have been requesting it, so I'm going to do it. Paul, you know it's true. Ooh,
that is Mike.
His Mike. I love
That's
you.
It. Stop. That is Mike.
With that, we're calling it a night. Thank you for the sweet serenades there, Fastcard.
Lord have mercy.
Thank you all for watching. Again, join us live, twitch.tv/TheAstroPub, youtube.com/TheAstroPubLive. On Saturdays, 3 p.m. Pacific, 6 p.m. Eastern. Love to have you here. And of course, I'd always love to hear your comments down below on what your thoughts on everything we talked about. Like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.